So every time I go to a commercial gym, I look around and I just sort of observe other people, not in a creepy way, probably, but more just sort of in a peripheral way. And I very routinely observe people fucking up their sets. Now, I don't say anything because I'm not a dick, and, even if it might be helpful, I have other shit going on. I'm kind of focused on my workout, which is actually one of the points. And so I usually don't say anything. And so this video is basically me saying something. So the first way that people mess up their sets, which you should hopefully not be doing, but you might be, is not going close enough to failure. Not getting those slow, all-out, high-effort, grindy reps near the end of a set. You look at most people, they're not even close to failure. You don't see the bar or the dumbbells or the machine or whatever, the reps slow down at all. And so it's actually sometimes difficult to gauge how far away they are from failure. Could be 4 reps, could be 14 reps. You just can't really tell if everything looks easy and nothing slows down. And that's where most people are. And last reps matter. We should be fighting for those last reps. We should be out on the streets making a ruckus for those last reps because they're important. And, as that most recent meta regression shows, the closer you go to failure, the more growth you get, which shouldn't be shocking, but for some reason it is because it flies in the face of a lot of the most recent exercise science data. And there might be a genetic component here. Some people can just grind a little bit more. Fiber type might be an issue here, but everyone is going to slow down at least a little bit as they get closer to failure. If there's no slowdown at all, and you're like, yep, that was 0 reps in reserve, that is probably bullshit. Or you are doing a movement that is probably not going to be that great for muscle growth. If you have an extremely sharp sticking point at one part of the range of motion, that means that, you might get failure out of nowhere, but I also don't think it's going to be all that conducive to actually hypertrophizing the muscle. The magic is not in the slowness of the rep, it's the fact that you want the rep to be as fast as possible, and it's slow just because you are fatigued, you are tired, you're giving it everything you have, and the muscle just doesn't have that much more to give, and so the reps are slowing down. Now you might say that it's dangerous to go to failure or close to failure on some movements. Maybe it's a barbell back squat, or maybe it's a pendulum squat where if you get stuck at the bottom, you get squashed like a bug. Well, I would argue that if you have to think about this during the set, and you have to not train as hard or as close to failure due to those safety limitations, then they're probably not as good of an exercise for hypertrophy as something else. You have to just be able to push and push and push and push without thinking like, what happens if I fail? Right? That inherently is going to limit you and make it just not that productive for hypertrophy. And that's why often people keep reps in reserve on a squat. Now you can still build muscle on a squat, but I would say that you want something else to complement that as well that is a little bit more failure friendly. And I'm not saying you have to go to failure. I've never said you have to go to failure, but you have to be somewhere on the green, right? If you're playing golf and you're somewhere off 10 RIR in the woods, you're fucking up.
Oops.
Okay, so could be 1 rep in reserve, maybe 2 on some movements, again, the safety issue, maybe 0 on some, maybe some beyond failure, like a chest supported row. I would say that is prime time for going beyond failure. But I would say make failure or 0 RIR your default and then adjust from there. A lot of people, their default is like 8 RIR or 10 RIR, right? And so they're not getting results, and they haven't actually stimulated the muscle to grow. By the way, this video is sponsored by Boostcamp. They are a fitness app where you can log your progress, and they also give you access to some of the best programs on the internet. I myself have 2 programs up there with a 3rd maybe already up. We'll see when I post this video. Also has programs from Alexander Bromley, Bald Omni-Man, Alberto Nunez, and many, many more. And so check them out if you want to support the channel. It supports you, supports me, supports, most importantly, your gains. And so thank you to Boostcamp for sponsoring this video. Number 2, not controlling the eccentric. This is probably the single most common form cue that I give to clients. And it is tough to control that eccentric. You see a lot of people bench pressing, whether you bounce the bar or pause or, sink it, you should be controlling the eccentric if you are interested in hypertrophy. If you're dive bombing and bouncing and then like praying that the bar gets back up through, the bounce, basically, not muscular effort, you're messing it up. You also don't have to count the time on the way down. A while ago, there was sort of a popular way of doing things where it was like 4, 3, 1, 2. And so it was like the eccentric, the pause, the concentric, and then the pause at the top. You don't have to count the seconds on the way down because that is distracting and just not necessary. However, I would say you're better off on most lifts being like 3 to 4 seconds rather than like half a second or 1 second, And it also depends a little bit on the rep range. For higher reps, you might get more of like a rhythmic kind of tempo, but you should still be feeling the muscles working on the way down. If you're doing a curl, curls are a big way that people mess it up, and you're like, and you're not actually feeling the biceps lengthen on the way down, there's no point in cheating, and you're probably just not getting very much out of the set at all. And if you look at a lot of very, very good bodybuilders train, both enhanced and natural, sure, they take a little bit more of oomph, but they're still feeling the muscle on the way down. The tension is still there. Most of them are not, flinging the weight around and just sort of like dive bombing, that kind of thing. If they're doing an overhead press, they're not like branch warning it. There is still some control. And this ties into number one, because often when people get close to failure and the reps are getting very, very difficult, they suddenly start dive bombing that eccentric because it hurts. It's uncomfortable. You're in pain. The reps are going to get even more challenging in the, few seconds to come. And so you start just rushing that. You start rushing that to squirm away from the difficult. Or if the weight is too heavy, again, you'll see people curl. They're like, I curl 1 plate per side. You're doing something with 1 plate per side. I don't know if I would call it a curl. It's more like an underhand power clean with no control on the way down. Number 3 would be not progressively overloading. Now, if you're just watching someone train, you're just sneakily looking at them. What are they doing? Why are they doing this? Sometimes I'm like, is this person a genius? And I watch them around like, nope, they're an idiot. They just don't know what they're doing. Okay. You can't really see if they're progressively overloading because you're only watching them sneakily during that session. But this should be happening over time. Okay. If you're not keeping a training log, do that. Again, Boostcamp, going to be very, very useful here. But you need to be progressively overloading over time. That doesn't mean it needs to be every single session, but it should be on a fairly regular basis. Beginners, hopefully every single session. Intermediates, once you've been lifting for, 6 months to a year, somewhere around there, probably every week or 2 weeks, something like that. When you're more advanced, you've been lifting 3, 4, 5 years, probably more looking for every single month, seeing those additions on the bar or on the dumbbell. If you have adjustable dumbbells, good work, brain. And then once you are truly advanced, you've been lifting, 8 years, 10 years, 12 years pretty consistently, you're probably looking at progressively overloading more on a year-to-year time scale. And so, if you're a beginner and you're having trouble progressively overloading, something big is going wrong, and you need to make adjustments because it doesn't get easier as you get more advanced. And so, know your numbers.
But what if you get a question wrong?
Then you are cast into the gorge of eternal peril.
Before I do a set, I know what is a reasonable expectation based on last week's performance, and then, based on my best performance of all time. And those might be the same thing, but they might not be the same thing. I have PRs that are from a year or two ago, but I still know what they are. They are still written down, and this is not something that you're going to be able to remember.
Right, off you go.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much.
That's easy!
Unless you're some kind of weightlifting savant or something. Giving a fuck is not enough to remember all of your PRs and all of your progressions. You need them written down. It could be an Excel spreadsheet, could be an app, something else, but that needs to be something that you are aware of.
What?
Is your close grip bench press PR?
I don't know that!
And so if you can't progressively overload a movement, maybe it's a machine that you really, really like, it's a chest press, you get a great stretch and a great contraction, and it just, it agrees with your joints a lot, but you've maxed it out and there's no way to add weight with a gym pin or something, you're kind of done. If you can do max stack on the machine for 15 reps, 20 reps, you're kind of done at that point. Sure, I guess you could go to 30 reps, 35 reps, 40 reps, but at a certain point, you've kind of graduated away from that movement, and it's not really going to be all that productive for hypertrophy. So for a movement to be good, it needs to be able to be overloaded in the long term. When I see people advocating for a standing dumbbell overhead press, I know they're full of shit because they didn't try to overload that movement in the long term. And if they tried, they'd realize it was stupid, and no amount of EMG studies is actually going to be relevant in this case. Number 4, not putting forth a monumental effort. This kind of ties in with failure a little bit, but they're not entirely the same. If you're focusing before the set, you're really getting in the zone, you're determined, you're committing to the set. You're not just talking to your friends, you're not on your phone, you're not like joking around. Some people can flip the switch very quickly, but I think for most people, they need to take at least a few seconds, not minutes, just a few seconds to really focus before the set on their technique and then on just preparing, not for the battle or the war to come, but just on putting forth their best possible effort when they need to. I would much rather have someone put forth a monumental effort and be 1 rep in reserve than kind of like be joking around, oh, let's toss up these dumbbells. Failure, shit. Oh, damn, I missed my PR. No, like, you are allowed to give a fuck about your training. You're allowed to get upset when you don't hit a PR, especially if you know that you bitched out and you could have done it. You're allowed to get upset with yourself. That is totally fine. In fact, you probably should if you want to go far in this game. And your sets should be rough. It's okay to have rough sets. In fact, the majority of your sets should be rough. And there's a time and a place for gentle sets. They're called warm-ups. And you can tell when someone is training hard, someone is faking training hard, and someone who is just not faking even. They're just, kind of just going through the motions, There's a full body tension, there's a pressure in the body. If you see someone actually doing a curl near failure, I mean, it's tough, it's brutal. Now you can maybe try to fake it like, oh yeah, it's so difficult. I think that's a lot of Instagram, but you can usually tell once you've taken a lot of sets to failure, you can be like, okay, that guy, that's a real set, or it's just a set for Instagram. And there's a lot of people in the gym not even doing sets for Instagram. They're just, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 reps in reserve, and that's just not going to be very useful. I saw someone the other day doing leg extensions on their phone. Yeah, killing 2 birds with 1 stone. They're doing the leg extensions. They are trying to get swole quads, presumably. I don't know why else you'd do that. And then they're meme, softcore porn on Instagram, meme, the usual. And they're sort of multitasking. If you're doing a set, you cannot be multitasking. If you're looking around during a set, if you're getting distracted by anything short of an earthquake, you're doing it wrong. And so if you can't put forth a monumental effort, either because you just don't care about this exercise and you saw it in a plan online, you don't really give a fuck about it, and so you're just like, okay, I guess we're doing this now, not going to be that effective. If it's just an exercise that you can't really push hard on for whatever reason, not going to be particularly effective. Whether you can't really show a lot of effort and interest and arousal in what you're doing, it's probably not going to be that effective. And so you need all of these. You need the effort, you need the failure, you need the control of the eccentric, and you need the 4th one, which I kind of just forgot. Progressive overload, also very, very important. So you need all of those 4 in order to get the most out of your sets. And guess what? The vast majority of people are missing at least one of these. Now, I tried to think of a 5th because, 5 ways to mess up your set. That sounds cooler, right?
5 to 5, 5 to 5 to 5, 5, 5, 5 to 5, 5, 5, 5s, 5, 5, 5, 5, 5, 5, 5, 5.
But I think this kind of covers it. But if you have one, if you have a nice 5th edition to these, let me know in the comments below. I still read all comments, and I get a lot of enjoyment over people chiming in. And so let me know, what would your 5th be? If you want to get stacked and packed, you better be following these, because if you're not, it's just not going to be very effective. And if you're going to the gym, you might as well maximize your time there, right? I mean, I guess if you're training for health, but, you know, why would you click on this video if you're training for... Anyway, for more about getting the most out of your time in the gym, definitely check out my books. They have been very, very well received. They are priced extremely reasonably, unlike many, many ebooks that are $200 or more dollars, which is ridiculous. So I priced them very, very reasonably for the amount of information that is in there. Thank you so much for the support, and thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Peace.
Five to five.